So we're going to jump into this and take a look at the unit and see some of the common, like I said, issues and what we may need to make sure that we're doing when we're hooking this up. When you are testing your signal, if we ever have an issue with where it's not seeing the outdoor unit, and that's going to, when we go through the steps, you're going to be able to see that outdoor unit before you actually start the testing process. You want to make sure you can see the indoor unit and the outdoor unit. If there's if it's a gas furnace, you should see all three on there. But if you're not, we're going to have 99.9% of the time, it's going to be a wiring issue. We need to make sure we've got one from the thermostat hooked up to one outdoor, and then same downstairs. And we'll show you at the next slide, but we can check our voltage and our data to see what we're looking at. Between 1 and 2, it should be 0.6 volts. 0.6 volts. Sorry. Okay, I got it. We're almost full. Well, this is awesome. Hold on one second. Come on. Okay, you're going to see 0.6 volts between 1 and 2. If you're going to, and when you call up and you have some, if you have an issue or not, I'm going to have you check between 1 and C and 2 and C, depending on the equipment, if it's an air handler or if it's a gas furnace. That voltage is going to be, for a gas furnace, something like between 1 and C, about 1.6. 1.8, somewhere right around in there. And if it's an air handler, it's going to be about 2.3. Again, somewhere right around in there. I'm not too that concerned about it, but what we do want to see is 0.6 volts DC between 1 and 2. So we're going to check that voltage and make sure we can see that inside and outside. As you can see right here, we have the indoor unit, the outdoor unit, and the one thing that I do want to mention on this, and I should have mentioned on the last slide, is if you look at the,
come on, go. Please go. I got to do this. We'll do stuff later, okay?
If you see the R at the thermostat, if you see it's got 1, 2 CR, but down at the equipment and the outdoor unit, it's 1, 2 RC. So make sure that you're hooking up that correctly and you're looking at your wiring, and that you see that you're hooking up C to C and R to R. Haven't really had any issues with that, but it can get confusing if you're going off of, you know, your color coordination and you're just saying yellow, white, red, blue, yellow, white, red, blue, and then you go to the thermostat and then, you know, you hook it up and you're doing that pattern. That can be an issue. You want to make sure that you're hooking that up the correct way. It does on the thermostat. It says data 1, data 2, and then auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2. You're going to hook it up to data 1, data 2. Auxiliary are for like accessories. If you have a gas furnace and you want to hook up some kind of accessory that you want to control by the thermostat, like humidification or dehumidification, you're going to hook your data up. You have to have the 6 wires going up to the thermostat to control the humidifier. And you're going to hook it to data 1, data 2. That is a set of dry contacts. That's not something that you're going to, that's going to send power through it. So you will need a transformer if your application needs it. And when you get a call for humidity, it will bring that on. If you have an air handler, you would not need to hook up the accessory terminals. On the board, it will have auxiliary connections, and you can just simply hook up to there. You do not need the 6 wires. You will only need 4 for those applications. Real quick, this slide's talking about how far you can run your wire. I don't think there's ever been an issue on that, or we ran into where the length was extremely long, but you do want to be aware of that and make sure that between the thermostat and the indoor unit, you're less than 125 feet. Again, I don't know of an application that we've ever ran into that to be an issue. And then from the outdoor unit and the indoor unit, 250 feet. The the one thing that I do run into or that I see is that if you're using more than 4 strands going up to the thermostat and more than 2 strands going to the outdoor unit, again, and one thing I do want to point out, the outdoor unit does have a transformer, so we don't need to hook up RNC from the indoor unit to that. If you do choose to do that, which I don't recommend, you will need to unhook the transformer from the outdoor unit for that. But one thing I do see quite a bit is if you have more than the required wires or needed wires, some interference. So what I'm suggesting guys do are take the unused wires that aren't being used and wire nut them together, and then use a pigtail, wire that into there as well, and then ground that out. So like if what you're going to do is get like a 6-inch or so piece of thermostat wire and wire nut into that group of wires that aren't being used, and then down at the furnace and out at the air handler, go ahead and ground that to the chassis of the unit or somewhere, or get it to a ground. If it's at the thermostat, you're just going to wire nut them all together and tuck them behind the wall. There is nothing to ground it to, but we do want them wire nutted together so that way we can get, if any interference, we can get that to ground and not interfere with our DC signal as it's going back to our board. What the unused wires act like sometimes is an antenna and can confuse that and start having issues. So even if it's just one wire, I'm going to say go ahead and ground that. If it's just one wire, if you got 5 strand going up to that thermostat, now you won't obviously need to cap it off or anything
Okay,
like
come
that.
in.
There's nothing that you need to twist together, but you can take that straight down to ground down at the furnace and at a screw terminal, and that should just prevent any issues that one unused wire may have. The other thing I want to talk about the low voltage wiring is making sure that you have 1-to-1 and 2-to-2. This is a big issue that I'm seeing, is where there's multiple wire nuts. And let's say number one, we're using the yellow wire. It doesn't makes no difference. I don't care. Let's just say we're using the yellow wire, and we have a bunch of splices, and sometimes then it gets switched over to the white wire, and because of the colors are faded or whatnot, you need to make sure that you truly are hooking them up and inspect every single wire nut connection. That's one thing that I'm seeing quite a bit is, multiple wire nuts. If you can get rid of them, if there's a chance that you see a bunch of different connections and you can run a straight shot, run the straight shot. Don't get rid of all unnecessary wire nuts at any chance you get. But if you do have a wire nut bundle and you're having issues with it not connecting or not seeing the indoor or outdoor unit, you go ahead and I want you to look at all those wire nuts and pull them apart, inspect the connection, see if there's any if the wire's just hanging in there broke, or if it's not connected. I've had guys to grab the wire nut and pull on each wire, and then a wire would completely come out because either it was broken in there and it wasn't making a connection, or it would never made it in that wire nut in a good connection to begin with. The other thing is underneath those green Molex plug blocks that you have, making sure that once you've got the wire underneath it and tightened it down, pull on it to truly make sure that you got it underneath that screw. I've seen it to where at times the wire was sitting and touching the screw and making a good connection, and then we know that voltage creates heat, and expansion and contraction happen when we heat something up and pull it off. And we've had the wire actually show up, and then as it's been running, it kind of pull away and lose that connection. So let's make sure all of our connections are really nice and tight, and we don't have any issues with wire nuts or miswired or whatnot. I will say that if you do have a coil, you're going to want to run all of your connections from the furnace, the outdoor unit, and the thermostat to that coil, and then make that coil be the connection on your gas furnaces. Okay, once we get the wiring all set up and completed, we can power up this thermostat. Now, to try to save time, if you want to at least get a part of this process done, what you will have to have happen is power to the all equipment and wires and everything all hooked up. Now, if the gas line's not done, or you're still brazing in, or hooking up flue pipe, or needs to get done, or sheet metal, that's fine. We can go through some of these steps. I'll show you where then at that point in time we need to stop, because we do need to have everything completely hooked up. So if you're wanting to get this thermostat up on the wall and get some things done, it's at a point to make sure that we can see the equipment and make sure there's no wire nut or no wiring issues. That's where we're going to do this. Otherwise, go ahead and completely install 100%, maybe leave cleanup left, because there will be some time that's going to be needed with this thermostat to make sure it gets hooked up properly, and we don't have any issues with the setup process. This and I'll show you what a step here when we get to it. That is it is the most critical point. It's the thing that if there's no wiring issues that hang up so many contractors and so many people, that I want to make sure that we really hit and stress this quite a bit when we get to that step. But right here, we've got when you first open up the power up the thermostat, it's going to go through a setup. It's going to then ask you what font size you want. Surprisingly, the large font is not that large, and the regular font is extremely hard to read. So I always suggest optimizing the large font. And then it will ask you, and then it will go straight in and ask you to start hooking up the thermostat. Like the communication portion, it will ask for the homeowner's Wi-Fi network and then password. This is a step that if you're going to have the homeowner enter in the information, stand right there with them. I've had a couple contractors where I've stressed, I would always make a joke: guard this thermostat. If you want to mount it, go ahead and mount it, but keep the base, that thermostat, in your pocket. Guard it. Have one person on that job site be the one that's going to take control of that thermostat and be the one that's going to install it and set it up. And when that person goes to install the thermostat and set it up, let the other guy know, hey, I'm going to go put this thermostat on the wall and power it up. Do not kill the power for any reason whatsoever during this process or while I'm gone. If you have to kill it, let me know so that we can either finish the setup first, or say, okay, yeah, we're at a spot to where you can go ahead and kill it, and I'll be able to get back into it and get it set up. But this is a very critical part that we want to make sure that once we start the process, that we get to points that we do not stop, and we continue on. Now, like I said, I will show you a point to where if you want to make sure that all your wires are connected good, and you
You can, you have an 9 a.m. Marshall called out sick and they transferred it to you.
Okay, then none of us can watch it, so.
Sorry.
I lost sound. Is it over?
TJ, you still there? We got a black screen and no audio.
Hey, TJ, do you have your screen going? I'm not seeing anything over here.